I was in Turkey for 17 days, and these are the things I noticed. Hello, welcome back. And my voice is a little bit weird today because I am a little bit sick yet again. And also, I'm in a new environment because I moved. I'm back in Spain. I feel like these past few videos have been all like from different rooms and places and countries, even, but at least it keeps it maybe more interesting. Anyways, I was on my kind of vacation visiting my friends in Turkey, and it was my first time in the country actually, and I wrote down some things that maybe like caught my interest, or for me, coming from the Czech Republic or being born in the Czech Republic, also living in Spain and Belgium, were still kind of maybe unusual, or I don't know, it was just something interesting to think about. I have 12 things written down, which I feel like in the end is kind of a lot, because in the beginning when I started doing it, I thought about it and I was like, huh, this is kind of interesting. And then I was like, oh, this too. And then I kept like writing and writing, and in the end, I have a good amount of things. So let's go into it. Also, before we start, I just want to mention that I've been to 3 cities, which is Istanbul, Bursa, and Kushadasi. I hope I pronounced the last one right. So obviously, I wasn't all over the whole country because it is a huge country. I was more on the west side. Obviously, I can't speak for the whole country, but these parts where I've been to, I saw these things happening. Number one is the taxi culture. Me personally, I haven't been using taxis or cabs that much in my life, just in one period of my life, which is when I was babysitting for a certain family. And because I would stay until maybe like late at night before I got my driving license and a car, they would send me home with like an Uber or whatever cab was available. But other than that, I don't know, for me it's kind of like an expensive luxury to have, so I always try to use public transport because it's also like more eco-friendly. And since in Prague and in Madrid, like the student public transport card is very cheap, I try to use that as much as possible. And if that's not an option and I really need to use a car, I use it either on my own or I ask my friend or my parents to drive me somewhere. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. The thing is that it was kind of cool because you know how, for example, in New York in the series How I Met Your Mother, you just go on the street, you wave at the driver at the car, there's a bunch of taxis all the time, and then you just wave and you get one. And here it kind of worked in the same way. I think there's still like an app that you can use and call a taxi driver, but you can also just go into the street and like wave. I'm not gonna come. You get in. I don't know. It was like really cool for me, and we used the taxi a couple of times because it was convenient. From what I've noticed and from what I've seen, it wasn't as expensive as I would think it would be. But to be honest, like we didn't go that far, so it's always like short distance. Thing number two is phone ringtones. I don't know if this actually is a thing or it was just a coincidence, but I already noticed this in Belgium on my Erasmus, where a bunch of like the Turkish people had this very specific office like ringtone. And I don't know, it just seems very funny to me because whenever I would hear it, gives it like such kind of like a professional formal vibe, you know. Whenever they would get a call, I was like, okay, they're doing some business because the ringtone was or sounded like it's in an office or something. And then I went to Turkey and I heard that ringtone there a lot as well. So maybe I just like it. I don't know. Like I said, maybe it's a coincidence, but I heard that ringtone multiple times. Thing number three is public transport systems, maybe, where there were a couple of public transport types that, for example, I've never seen in another country. For example, basically, it works kind of like a bus where you stand, I think, at a bus station, maybe also at some random places. I haven't really figured that out. Then a specific car comes. I think this is just in Bursa though. And the car comes, it has like a specific thing on the rooftop, so you know it's that car. Then you just wave and you get in, you pay, and it takes you where you need to. Like it has a specific route. I think it's like kind of like a circle where it goes, you know, the same way all the time, and then you just hop in and you go on and you get off wherever you need, and you're just in a car with like four other people, I guess, maximum. And then you can basically, I think, tell the driver a specific spot within their route where you want to get off, not just like at a bus station. I don't know. That was really cool to me because it's kind of like a taxi, but much cheaper, but also like a bus. I don't know. And then there was another thing called, I think, like a train bus, which just means that it's like a normal bus, but it has its own line on the highway or the road wherever it goes, so it doesn't really get stuck in traffic. At some spots it does go into like the normal lanes as the cars, I think, when it goes over a bridge, but then it's much faster because it's just the buses going there, you know. Number 4 is the food. I loved, I would say, anything I ate, and I am not gonna list the things I did because I don't remember. Obviously, I had kebab durum, the Turkish bagel. I tried Turkish coffee, which I didn't like. That was the only thing. And then Turkish ice cream, which I'm gonna get to later, or maybe I can just mention it as the next point. But I just really loved the food. Anything they gave me to try there. Okay, number 5 is Turkish ice cream, which the consistency is different. It's kind of like stickier and more, you know, when you have melted cheese, how it kind of like makes these strings, like it pulls apart, but not really. I feel like the ice cream was kind of like that, like when you know, lick it, it wasn't just like staying on your tongue, but it was making these like strings kind of. And also, I think my friends told me that it's a tradition that they kind of play around when they're giving it to you. I think I put it in my last video, or second to last, which was the vlog from Turkey, where my friend was like getting the ice cream, but not really, because they always like show it, then they take just the ice cream, leave you with the cone, and then they do the opposite and stuff like that. And it just brought me to my childhood, because when we used to go to Croatia every year for like a vacation with my sisters and my mom, we used to go to this specific ice cream place where they would like build a whole, I never know what to call it, figure, maybe, I don't know if that's the correct word, but basically it would have one cone ice cream that they would stick like two more cones from the sides, and then another like bowl of ice cream and all that, and they would also play around before actually giving it to you. And I don't know, we used to love it as kids, and like I said, it brought me to my childhood, to this cute little memory. My friend didn't like it that much though, because she was like, I just want the ice cream, I don't want to, you know, have this whole show. I mean, I guess if I lived there, I also wouldn't want it every time I get ice cream, so I understand. Number 6 is cash, or using cash. At this point, I'm really used to just using my card and not bringing cash around me almost at all, honestly. But there, it was actually quite necessary. Whether it was like a small shop where I wanted to buy something, or food, or the car, public transport, or the minibus. There was also like a minibus that's basically a bus but much smaller. And again, I don't know where exactly they stop. I think just random places, not really bus stops. Just stand at the road, wave at the driver, and be like, yeah, yeah, can I get in? And if they're not too full, they let you in. So at some places, you really just have to pay with cash. And they have a lot of ATMs, which, now that I think about it, were also more specific, where I feel like in Madrid or in Prague, or maybe in Europe, you have ATMs randomly scattered around the city, an ATM from this bank here, an ATM from this bank there. Whereas in Turkey, I noticed that a lot of the times it was like a specific place where they had a bunch of ATMs from different banks in one place. Number 7 is, I wrote down, mostly no English, which, to be fair, I didn't try to use English much in general, because I was always with my Turkish friends, and so I was always like, can you tell them this, can you ask this? And usually I'm not like that at all. I always, like, I hate when my mom does it to me, because whenever we're somewhere, she's like, can you ask them this, can you ask them this? Usually it's when we're here in Spain, which I understand, because it's kind of the similar situation where in a lot of stores and stuff, people don't speak really English. So then, since I can speak Spanish, I translate. And then it's funny because sometimes we're somewhere and you can speak English there, and my mom did it to me, and I was like, Mom, but they speak English here, or like, you know, they use a lot of English here. And she was like, huh, that's true, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. So usually I don't do that. I speak for myself, you know, and everything. But there, I was just like, can you do this for me? I don't know. I think I was shy for some reason. Also, I could say a good amount of words in Turkish. I could say hello, I could say how are you, like what my name is and everything. But I didn't want to use it because I was like, once I say something in Turkish, they will assume I speak Turkish well, and then they will say something and I'm like, what? Ne? So I would say the English level there isn't maybe the best, but I didn't test it that well, so I can't really judge. Number 8 is a lot of Turkish tea. And this is something that I actually like and admire because I feel like they obviously love Turkish tea just to drink it honestly on every occasion. But I think it is also kind of like a social thing where they meet up, they grab tea, they talk, they socialize. So I really like that. But I don't know, I don't need to drink because it's basically black tea. I don't need to drink black tea that much. And I think, mostly drink just the black. I am a tea girl, but I love like my peppermint tea, my like basically a bunch of different herbal teas. So I remember we went to a store and I wanted to buy peppermint tea, and my friend was like, yeah, no, you're not gonna get that here. Maybe at some like big supermarkets you can, but we went to like a small grocery store and they just had the black Turkish tea. Number 9, I noticed that their lifestyle is in a way similar to southern countries in Europe, meaning they go to bed later, they have their like day and night schedule kind of shifted towards like everything later. Not like me, Central or Eastern European. I have dinner at 6 and 7, then go to bed at 10. They do all of that like much, much later. And I also think they seemed to me more kind of like laid back and relaxed with things, not as like rushed, besides the traffic, obviously. But I feel like other countries are more rushed and crazy in traffic, if that makes sense. Number 10 is driving a car or a motorbike. Okay, how do I explain this? Basically, I saw a bunch of cars or motorbikes pass by where there were like 3 people on the motorbike, or there were 2 people, and the one sitting at the back was like holding a baby just like on one arm, riding without helmets or anything, which to me it looked a little bit crazy. I was like, okay, my mom doesn't even want me to drive like a scooter or a motorbike with helmet and everything on in normal like traffic, and here they're driving around with like kids on their back, on their hand. I mean, they did look like, all the drivers look like very confident and like they know what they're doing. It probably, if it's common there, then it's common there. But for me, it was like, okay, interesting. And also, like in the cars, like I would see little kids sitting on the like in the back seat or the front seat of the car, like without any car seat or the security belt. I don't know what it's called. Number 11, cats or animals in general, cats and dogs mostly. The amount of cats that are everywhere, in the street, in the houses, in the parks, everywhere, it's so many. But it's honestly really cute because I feel like the cats are a part of like the Turkish community or like society. I feel like most of the people there love cats or animals in general, and they really like take care of them, even like stray cats, because basically on every corner where you walk you see cat food. Really, just like people go and put cat food there so they're fed, and they honestly look clean, they don't smell, or I didn't notice any of that. I feel like they're more loved than dogs, maybe just because they're smaller and cuter. I don't know, that's just like a hypothesis. But I didn't see as many dogs there. Usually, if there were dogs, they were like more in one place. I remember we went to this one like farmers market and there were a bunch kind of like at a bus station, and they had a tag on their ears, and I asked my friend about it, and I think she said that it's to tag which one of them are vaccinated or something. So even though those are like stray animals, they really seem to take care of them. And then we were in one like cat park, I think it was even like called like that, and it was so cute because there were even more cats and like little kittens and everything, and you were just walking through and there were people sitting on steps and benches, and everyone had like a cat in their lap cuddling and petting them. It was really sweet. And number 11, the final one, is that just overall, what it seemed to me was that Turkish people are very social and very talkative and maybe even outgoing, because every taxi we took, my friend was talking with the driver like the whole drive, and like very like enthusiastically and positively and excitedly. Or whatever park we went to, there were a bunch of people hanging out, even smaller groups, bigger groups, or the farmers markets, like people were talking together and everything. I don't know, to me, because of where I come from, the Czech Republic, where to me people seem more cold and definitely not as like extroverted. I would say in a stranger social setting, like if you're on a bus, on a tram, in a train, whatever, there's a very small possibility that someone will just come up to you and talk. Whereas I feel like in like southern countries or in Turkey, that's very possible. So this wraps up this whole video. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, I want to mention that those are things that I noticed with my eyes. It's very subjective. I don't want to say every Turkish person is extremely social or nobody can speak good English and everything. It's just what I've seen in those 2 weeks in those three cities through my eyes. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!